The email that destroyed my life arrived at 2:37 a.m. The subject line was, "Interesting side hustle, Ava," and attached was a screenshot from my OnlyFans that only one person had ever purchased. My married boss, Julian Thorne, CEO of Thorne Industries, hadn't just found my secret. He'd subscribed. He'd paid. He'd watched every video, and he wasn't going to fire me. No, what he wanted was much, much worse. He gave me 24 hours to decide. Become his exclusive, after-hours companion for 5 times my salary, or he'd leak everything to my family, the board, and the world. I thought signing his contract was the hardest choice I'd ever make. But that was before I discovered his wife's secret, the one that could get us both killed. Let me rewind. I need to explain how I got here. My name is Ava, and until 3 weeks ago, I was living 2 completely separate lives. By day, I was Ava Collins, senior executive assistant to Julian Thorne, the perfect corporate professional. I wore $1,000 blazers, organized multi-million-dollar deals, and knew exactly how Julian took his coffee. I was invisible in the way only the most competent assistants can be, essential but unnoticed. By night, I was Luna. Luna paid my mother's medical bills when her insurance ran out. Luna covered my sister's tuition at Stanford. Luna was the reason we didn't lose our house after my father's business collapsed. She existed in a password-protected world of curated fantasy, and she never, ever touched my real life. I was meticulous. A VPN, separate devices, never showing my full face, never using my real name or location. I was a ghost, or so I thought. The first sign something was wrong came on a Tuesday. Julian called me into his office, not for work, but for something personal. "Close the door, Ava," he said, his voice that smooth, cultured tone that usually meant he was about to ask for something unreasonable but legal. I closed it, my professional smile firmly in place. "Yes, Mr. Thorne." He was standing by the window, looking out over the city. He didn't turn around. "I need you to handle a delicate matter. My wife's birthday is next week. She wants a specific piece of jewelry from Van Cleef." "Of course," I said, pulling out my tablet. "I'll contact them immediately." "No," he said, finally turning. His eyes were different, more intense than I'd ever seen them. "I want you to go in person to their private showroom, try on the pieces, see how they look on you." I froze. "Mr. Thorne, I don't think." "A leaner is about your size," he continued, as if I hadn't spoken. "Your coloring is similar. I want to see how the pieces photograph before I decide." The request was bizarre but not quite inappropriate. Just odd. That should have been my first red flag. The second came 2 days later. I was working late, the office empty except for the cleaning staff. My personal phone, the one I used for Luna, buzzed with a new subscriber notification. The username, J. Thorne Private. My blood ran cold. It had to be a coincidence. A sick joke. Then came the first message through the platform. "The blue looks better on you than the black. From this morning." That morning, I'd worn a blue dress to the Van Cleef appointment. He knew. The world tilted. I gripped my desk, my vision swimming. He knew. Julian Thorne knew I was Luna. The next 48 hours were a blur of terror. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped. At work, I was professional, efficient, perfect, while inside, I was screaming. Then came the 2:37 a.m. email to my personal account. "Ava, your talents are clearly multifaceted. I have a proposition that could be mutually beneficial. A retainer for exclusive, after-hours services. Discretion is, of course, paramount. My private study, tomorrow, 8 p.m. Do not be late. Julian." And attached was the screenshot. I showed up at 8 p.m. exactly. His private study was in his penthouse, separate from the main office. The room was all dark wood and leather, smelling of expensive cigars and power. He didn't bother with pleasantries. "Sit, Ava," he said. I sat, my knees trembling. "I'm a businessman," he began, pouring 2 glasses of whiskey without asking if I wanted one. "I see value, I acquire it, you have value." I'll delete the account, I blurted. Today, right now. He smiled, that cold, calculating smile I'd seen him use in boardrooms right before he destroyed a competitor. Why would I want you to do that? The account is part of the value. He slid a contract across the desk. This outlines our new arrangement. You cease all other private interactions on that platform. You are available to me exclusively. In return, I deposit $20,000 into a private account for you every month. Your day job continues unchanged. I stared at the number. It was astronomical, life-changing. And if I say no? He took a slow sip of whiskey. Then tomorrow morning, the executive board receives a very detailed email about how I discovered your side business. You'll be fired for gross misconduct. I'll make sure you never work in this industry again. And of course, I'll have to inform your family. To protect the company's reputation, you understand. He was offering me golden handcuffs, a gilded cage. I need time to think, I whispered. You have until Friday, he said. But know this, Ava, this isn't really a choice. It's an opportunity, don't be foolish. I left that room feeling like I'd already sold my soul. But the real nightmare was just beginning. Because the next day, I received a message from an account I didn't recognize. No name, just a string of numbers. He's done this before, don't end up like Sasha. And attached was a news article from 2 years ago. Executive Assistant Sasha Jones missing presumed dead. Sasha Jones, 28 years old, former executive assistant to Julian Thorne, reported missing after failing to show up for work. The investigation found no evidence of foul play. Case closed. But that anonymous message changed everything. Suddenly, this wasn't just about my career or my reputation. This was about survival. I started digging. Sasha had worked for Julian for 3 years. Her personnel files showed she'd been promoted rapidly, given massive bonuses. The official story was that she'd taken her settlement money and started a new life abroad. But the dates didn't add up. Her last bonus payment came 2 weeks after she was already missing. I tried to find the source of the anonymous message, but the account had been deleted. Someone wanted me to know about Sasha, but didn't want to be found. Meanwhile, Julian's demands began. They started small. Stay late to review contracts. Join me for dinner with clients. But the dinners were always at intimate restaurants, and the clients never showed. Then came the first performance. He wanted me to create a custom video for him, specific requests, specific outfits. I felt sick doing it, but what choice did I have? I'd signed the contract. I'd taken the money. The money that was now paying for my mother's experimental treatment. The money that meant my sister could stay in school. I was trapped. Then I met Alina, Julian's wife, the woman I'd been essentially cuckolding for weeks. She showed up at the office unexpectedly one afternoon. I'd only ever seen her in society pages, always perfectly composed, always smiling. In person, she was different. There was a fragility beneath the polished exterior. Ava, she said, her voice surprisingly gentle. Julian has told me so much about you. My heart stopped. What had he told her? How much did she know? She invited me to lunch. Just us girls, she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Over salads at a restaurant I could never afford on my salary, she made small talk, asked about my family, my background. Then, as dessert arrived, she dropped the bomb. I know about your arrangement with Julian, she said quietly. I choked on my water. Mrs. Thorne, She held up a hand. Don't, I'm not here to judge you, I'm here to warn you. She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. The woman before you, Sasha, she thought she could handle him too. She thought she was different. What happened to her? I asked, my own voice barely audible. Alina's eyes filled with tears. She made the mistake of falling in love with him, of thinking he'd leave me for her. When she started making demands, he made her disappear. The world tilted again. You're saying Julian killed her. I'm saying be careful, she said, dabbing her eyes with a napkin. The money isn't worth your life. Get out while you still can. But as she stood to leave, she slipped a note into my hand. "If you need help," she whispered. I waited until I was back in my office to read it. A single sentence. "He's watching everything. Don't trust anyone." Including her. Was this a genuine warning or some kind of test? That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Sasha, about Alina's tears, about Julian's cold eyes. I decided to risk everything. I used a burner phone from a store across town and called the number for Sasha's mother from the missing person article. The woman who answered sounded tired, defeated. "If you're another reporter." "I'm not," I said quickly. "I work for Julian Thorne, I think. I think I might be in danger." There was a long silence. Then, "Sasha called me the night she disappeared. She said she'd found something, evidence, she called it. She was going to bring it to me the next day." "What kind of evidence?" "I don't know. She said it was in her safety deposit box. But when I went to the bank after she vanished, the box was empty. Julian had power of attorney. He cleared it out." My blood ran cold. Did she say anything else? "Just one thing," the woman said, her voice breaking. "She said, it's not just him, the wife knows everything." I hung up, my mind reeling. Alina knew. She knew about Sasha. She knew about whatever evidence Sasha had found. And now she was warning me, or setting me up. The next day at work, Julian was waiting for me. His expression was thunderous. "Alina tells me you had lunch yesterday," he said, his voice dangerously calm. My heart hammered against my ribs. She invited me. I thought it would be rude to refuse. He stepped closer, crowding me against my desk. "Let me be very clear, Ava. You are mine, my employee, my investment, my property. You do not speak to my wife. You do not see my wife. You do not even think about my wife. Is that understood?" I nodded, too terrified to speak. "Good," he said, his expression softening into that charming smile that now made my skin crawl. "Now, I have a special assignment for you. We're hosting a charity gala next week. Alina will be there, of course, but I want you to come as my personal assistant for the evening." It was a test, a power move. He wanted to parade me in front of his wife, in front of all their society friends, to show me my place, to show both of us who was in control. The night of the gala, I wore a dress he'd chosen, jewelry he'd bought. I stood by his side while he schmoozed with donors, my smile feeling like a death mask. Alina was across the room, watching us. Her expression was unreadable. Then, during a quiet moment, she approached me while Julian was distracted. "You look beautiful, Ava," she said, her voice sweet but her eyes cold. "That necklace, it was Sasha's favorite too." Before I could respond, she pressed a key into my hand. "Safety deposit box 714, she whispered. "First National Bank. The password is Sasha's birthday, June 12th. Then she was gone, melting back into the crowd. I stood there, the key burning in my palm. A key to what? Evidence, a trap. And why would Alina give it to me? The safety deposit box contained 3 things: a journal, a USB drive, and a pregnancy test with 2 pink lines. Sasha's journal told the story I was living, just with a different ending. The dinners that turned intimate, the gifts that became demands, the isolation from friends and family, the exact same pattern. But then, about 6 months before she disappeared, the entries changed. She discovered something big. July 14th, it's not just me. There are others before me. He has a type, young, vulnerable, in debt. We're all interchangeable. August 3rd, found the files, the offshore accounts, the payments. This isn't just about sex. This is about something much darker. September 1st, I'm pregnant. He says get rid of it. I can't, I won't. September 15th, told Alina. She didn't seem surprised. She said she'd help me, but her eyes, I don't trust her. September 28th, last entry. Meeting Alina tomorrow. She says she has money, documents, a way out. I'm scared, but I have no choice. Then nothing. Sasha disappeared on September 29th. The USB drive contained financial records. Spreadsheets of payments to women with codes instead of names. Offshore account information. And medical records, dozens of women, all with the same complications after their relationships with Julian ended. But the most chilling file was a life insurance policy on Sasha for $5 million, with Julian as the beneficiary. And the policy had been paid out. I sat in that bank vault trembling. This wasn't just harassment. This was, I didn't even have a word for it, predatory, criminal, murderous. I had to go to the police, but Julian had friends in high places. What if they buried it? What if I ended up like Sasha? That's when I remembered Alina's words. Don't trust anyone, including her. Why would she give me this key? Why would she lead me to evidence that implicated her husband and possibly herself? Unless she wanted me to do something with it. Unless this was her way of getting rid of Julian without getting her own hands dirty. I was being played, a pawn in a game between two ruthless people. I made copies of everything. I hid them in multiple places. I prepared for war. The confrontation came sooner than I expected. Julian summoned me to his penthouse. He knew I'd been to the bank. "Where is it?" he demanded, his face a mask of cold fury. "Where's what?" I played dumb, my heart pounding. "Don't lie to me," he roared, slamming his hand on the table. "Alina told me everything. You threatened her, demanded money." Of course. She'd set me up, made it look like I was extorting them. "I have copies," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "And instructions. If anything happens to me, they go to the FBI, the IRS, and the New York Times." He stared at me, and for the first time I saw something other than anger in his eyes. Fear. "You stupid girl," he whispered. "You have no idea what you've stumbled into." "Then enlighten me," I challenged. That's when Alina emerged from the bedroom. She wasn't the fragile society wife anymore. She was cold, composed, dangerous. "She doesn't need to know Julian," she said calmly. "She just needs to disappear, like the others." Others, plural. I backed toward the door. The police are on their way. It was a bluff, but it worked. Julian's eyes widened. "You called them." Alina laughed. "She's lying. She's too smart to bring the police into this." She turned to me. "Aren't you, Ava? You know what happens to girls who cry wolf, especially girls with your reputation." She had me. Even with the evidence, it would be my word against theirs. A wealthy, powerful couple against an OnlyFans creator. I'd be crucified. But I had one card left to play. "I know about the insurance policy," I said, looking directly at Julian. "The one on Sasha, the one that paid out $5 million. But here's what you don't know, I took out a policy too. And my sister has the paperwork. If I die, she gets $10 million, and the evidence goes public." It was another bluff, but it landed. Julian paled. Alina's composure cracked. "You're lying," she said, but there was doubt in her voice. "Test me," I challenged. The standoff lasted for what felt like hours. Then, slowly, Julian nodded. "Name your price," he said. $5 million, I said. "Transferred now, and both of you resign from the company today." "And the evidence?" Alina asked. "Stays hidden," I said, "as long as you leave me and my family alone." They agreed. Of course they agreed. It was cheaper than killing me and cleaner than a scandal. The money hit my account within the hour. Their resignations were announced the next day, to pursue philanthropic interests. I thought I'd won. I thought it was over. But then, this morning, I received one final message from an unknown number. "You were good, better than Sasha, but the game isn't over. We're watching." And attached was a photo of me, taken this morning, leaving my apartment.